Hey everybody, in today's video we're going to be looking at the altimeter on our Casio ProTrek PRG-600 watch module QW5497. Now not only are we looking at the altimeter, we're going to be specifically looking at how to set a reference altitude value. Now this is one of those features I don't use very often. I don't really have a need for it. I think most people would be using this in the event that you have, maybe you're out mountain hiking or you're at a national park and you have an actual reference altitude that you know is accurate. You can basically set that altitude value on this watch, and then you can track your altitude changes from that reference value versus the sensor on the watch. It's still going to use the sensor information, but it's going to be using your starting point as the reference altitude value, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So first thing we need to do is we need to go into our altimeter on the watch. It's got its own designated button. It is the bottom right button. It is labeled ALTI, so you can't miss it. I'm going to press that. You'll notice when we press it, it takes us into our altimeter. Now mine is currently showing 15 feet, and then over here on the left-hand side, you can see the graph because it's tracking my elevation as we're sitting here. You can actually change the rate at which it's checking the altitude. I've done a video that walks you through that in the past, but this is using my sensor information and it's calculating me at 15 feet above sea level. If we want to set a reference altitude, what we're going to do is while we're in our altimeter, we are going to unscrew the crown. Once it kind of pops out, then we are going to pull out the crown, and we will notice that our altitude value is going to start blinking. You will also notice that the second hands, hour hand, and minute hand have all moved out of the way so we can see the digital value down here. Now then, this is pretty simple. Now I should mention that mine's showing in feet. If you've got your altitude showing in meters, you might be seeing meters here as well. You can go ahead and turn your crown up or down to set your reference altitude value. So I'm going to set mine at 80 feet just for kick's sake. Once you've got your value set, you will press the crown in and that confirms your changes, and you can see that now my altitude is being calculated from 80 feet from the point that I set it at. The last thing we need to do is we need to push in the crown, and we have set a reference altitude value. Now what I want to do is let's get out of the altimeter. I should have shown you this a minute ago. I'm going to go ahead and press the bottom left button. Takes us back into our time mode. When we go into our altimeter, you're going to notice a couple different things depending on how you have your watch set up. You'll notice that mine is showing the second hand going around. You don't have to have it like that. If you press the top left button, you'll notice that it moves over to the side. What this is doing is this is showing you the altitude differential value between your last altitude reading and the current altitude value. So what this pointer will do is it will move up and down to show you your altitude differential value. The watch will also remember this setting. So you'll notice now that I've got it set to show my advanced altitude differential. If I go out of the altimeter and then go back into it, instead of it showing my second hand like it did before, it knows that I used the differential value the last time I was in the altimeter, and it keeps it on that same setting. So the reason I let you know that is sometimes when you go into your altimeter, you might see your second hand going around, and then sometimes you might see it being used as a differential value, basically looking at your altitude differential value. If you don't want to keep it as the altitude differential value, you can always press the top left button and it'll basically toggle it back to where it's being used as the seconds for your time, current time value. So that's a quick look at using a reference altitude value, using the differential value pointer. What if you want to reset it all? What if you've done your mountain hike and you just want to go back to using the watch to where it's using your sensor, it's not using a reference altitude value? I'm going to show you how to do that. Again, while we are in the altimeter, we are going to unscrew the crown. Once it's unscrewed, we are going to pull it out. And as before, we'll see the hands move out of the way. We will see our altitude value blinking. Again, though, this is our reference altitude value. If we want to delete that, we're going to press the bottom right button and the top right button at the same time. you'll notice it's set off and it's reset my altitude value based on what the sensor has calculated, and we're back at 15 feet above sea level. Pretty simple stuff. So now that I've got my reference altitude value turned off, I will go ahead, push in the crown, and then again, always your last step when you're doing any settings on this watch is going to be to screw down that crown. You don't want to leave your crown unscrewed because it will allow for the possibility of moisture to get into the watch. Anyway, I hope that's not too complicated. Somebody who's used to doing hiking and climbing, that stuff's probably going to make more sense to you than just a regular casual person who wants to look at their altitude values. But that's how you set your reference altitude value and use the differential value pointer on your Casio ProTrek PRG-600 watch. I hope the video helps. Thanks for watching.